Thursday night, and the Science of Mind group is growing, and that was really exciting to see. So thank you for being with us this holiday season. Gosh, I have a hunch that maybe we're going to be doing some joyous things with you today, so I'm going to let you have it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It is really wonderful to be here, and I really, really am grateful for this community. I recently renewed my license as a religious science practitioner, and I want to thank you for being a part of that. The different parts of serving my community in order to renew my license is a big deal, and being away from the Bay Area and finding Bay Area in California and finding a community here in Little Rock that is my spiritual community, and I get to serve, I get to be here and share what I love with you. I'm very appreciative of that. And in that appreciation for the year 2012, one of the things that we, for 2013, one of the things that we do as practitioners is that we gift to our community a spiritual checkup. If you'd like to have a session with me as a gift, I am available, and you can, I have some cards if you'd like to do a birthday gift to yourself from me to you. We can do that, and so you can see what it is that I do. And so I want to just thank you for being part of my renewing of my license. In lieu of what happened this last week, for the community of Sandy's school, and I say the community because it didn't just affect that geographical area, didn't just affect those family members, it affected all of us. It truly touched everyone. And there was a piece in this book called Holding Another's Hand, Facing the Transition, called Death. And sometimes we have the opportunity to say goodbye, and sometimes we don't. When my grandfather was making his transition, the family had an opportunity to say goodbye. We all were able to go and say, Grandpa, we love you, whatever it looked like individually to us. We had that opportunity. When my mother left, she made her transition, she just left. She was in a car accident and she was gone. And I have always felt that there's two ways that we leave the planet, and we're all leaving. One is death for the dying and death for the living. And in death for the dying, it's quick, it's fast. When it's time to go, we don't know when that is, and we just love each other while we're here, and we just never know. The son-in-law of one of the counselors of the Sandy school had said that, she just went to work like any other day, and poof, she was gone. There was a police officer that I worked with. I didn't work with him, but he was the beat officer in downtown Oakland. And he said that every single day when he left his home, he kissed his family goodbye, because he never knew whether he was going to come home. He was in that profession where a little more susceptible to things happening. So that really stuck with me. It really stuck. You never know what's going to happen. And in never knowing what's going to happen and feeling just the presence of knowing the eternality of life, that there is a continuity of the Spirit forever and ever expressing itself. And on the way here, I thought of sharing this piece that I read. I read this book when my father was making his transition. And it's filled with short stories, and there's one little piece here that Ernest Holmes wrote. And Ernest Holmes is the author of The Science of Mind, the founder of religious science. And I'd like to share it with you. When we came into this life, we were met by loving friends who cared for us until we were able to care for ourselves. Judging the future of the past and going from the known to the unknown, we can believe that when we enter the larger life, there will be loving hands to greet us and loving friends to care for us until we become accustomed to our new surroundings. And I thought about this statement here when I was driving in, and the little ones and the lives that they touched, the parents, everyone that was touched, and knowing that as they transition to the next expression of their spiritual journey, that they are met with the same loving presence that they were met when they came here. And so I just want to invite you to just take that moment, take a moment right now and just know deeply in your heart that each and every child, each and every adult, each and every person that made their transition at that point, and whether it was, as Chris had mentioned, Chris and Jeannie mentioned about the other transitions that have been taking place in the world, not just here in the United States, but in the world, that they are met as they go on to their next journey of their spiritual evolution, that they are embraced with open hands, that they are loved and embraced and cared for deeply in the evolution of their spiritual journey. And being in this place of awareness of the evolution of the spiritual journey, that the Spirit is forever and ever expressing itself. Right here and right now, I rejoice in the new expression. And I claim and I affirm peace beyond all understanding for those that are here with pain, with suffering, with unknowing, that they just be washed in the spirit of peace, the spirit of joy, that they remember the joyous memories of those loved ones that made their transition. For everyone involved, the police officers, the paramedics, the hospital crew, the doctors, the nurses, everyone who has partaken in this journey with these souls that have made their transition. For everyone in the United States and the world, this has affected people around the world. And I just claim and I affirm peace beyond all understanding, for we know not why. But we claim and accept peace beyond all understanding. And giving thanks for knowing that peace is at hand, that we are in the season of peace, of love, of joy, of goodness, no matter the appearance. That we stand in this presence, right here and right now, to be peace, to be love, to be joy. That we claim it for ourselves first and foremost. And knowing that it spreads and it ripples and it attracts and it just touches every life, the seen and the unseen. And for this, I am so very grateful, and I give thanks, and I release this word knowing that it is done, and peace beyond all understanding is done right here and right now. So it is, amen. So just taking a moment to take a deep breath. And if you'd like to stay in that place of silence, of having your eyes closed if you'd like, I'm going to move into our meditation. And this is, I brought a piece that's called the Hem of the Pearl. I don't know if you've heard of this before, but it comes from the Gnostic Bible, from the book of Thomas. And it's one of my favorites. I love reading it at least once a year, so I wanted to share this with you. And so, the Hem of the Pearl. When I was a little child, living in my kingdom, in my Father's house, happy in the glories and the riches of my family that nurtured me, my parents gave me provisions and set me forth from our home in the east. From their treasure house, they made up a bundle for me. It was big, though light, so I may carry it alone, and it held gold from the house of the highest ones, and the silver from the Gasket the Great, the rubies of India, and the opals from the land of Cushan. And they girded me with adamant, which can crush iron. And they took off my bright robe of glory, which they had made for me out of love, and took away my purple toga, which was woven to fit my stature. They made a covenant with me, and they wrote it in my heart, so I would not forget. When you go down into Egypt and bring back the one pearl which lies in the middle of the sea and is guarded by the snorting serpent, you will again put on your robe of glory and your toga over it. And with your brother, our next in rank, you will be heir in our kingdom. I left the east and went down with my 2 royal envoys, since the way was dangerous and harsh, and I was very young to walk alone. I crossed the borders of Maishan, the gathering place of the merchants of the east, and came into the land of Babel, and entered the walls of Sarbad. I went down into Egypt, and my companions left me. I went straight to the serpent and settled in close by his inn, waiting for him to sleep, so I could take my pearl from him. Since I was all alone, I was a stranger to others in the inn, yet I saw one of my own people there, a nobleman from the east, young, handsome, lovable, a son of kings, an anointed one. And he came and he was close to me, and I made him my confidant, with whom I shared my mission. I warned him against the Egyptians and the contact with the unclean ones. Then I put on a robe like theirs, lest they suspect me as an outsider who had come to steal the pearl, lest they arouse the serpent against me. But somehow they learned I was not their countryman, and they dealt with me cunningly and gave me their food to eat. I forgot that I was a son of kings, and I served their king. I forgot the pearl for which my parents had sent me. Through the heaviness of their food, I fell into a deep sleep. But when all these things happened, my parents knew and grieved for me. It was proclaimed in the kingdom that all should come to our gate. And the kings and the princesses of Parthia and all the nobles of the east wove a plan on my behalf, so I would not be left in Egypt. And they wrote me a letter, and every noble signed it with his name. From your father, the King of Kings, and your mother, the mistress of the east, and from your brother, our next in rank, to you, our son in Egypt, greetings. Awake and rise from your sleep, and hear the words of our letter. Remember that you are a son of kings, and see the slavery of your life. Remember the pearl for which you went into Egypt. Remember your robe of glory and your splendid mantle, which you may wear when your name is named in the book of life, is read in the book of heroes, when you and your brother inherit our kingdom. And serving as a messenger, the letter was a letter sealed by the king with his right hand against the evil ones, the children of Babel, and the savage demons of Sarbal. It rose up in the form of an eagle, the king of the winged fowl. It flew and alighted itself beside me. and began speech. And in its voice, the sound of its rustling, I woke and rose from my sleep. I took it, I kissed it, broke its seal, and read. And the words written on my heart were in the letter for me to read. I remembered that I was son of kings, and my free soul longed for its own kind. I remembered the pearl for which I was sent down into Egypt, and I began to enchant the terrible and snorting serpent. I charmed him into sleep by naming the names of my father over him, and the name of the next in rank, and my mother, the queen of the east. I seized the pearl, and I turned to carry it to my father. Their filthy garment and impure garment I stripped off, leaving it in the fields, and directed my way into the light of our homeland, the east. On my way, the letter that awakened me was lying on the road, and it had awakened me with its voice, so it guarded me with its light. It was written on shining silk and shone before me in its own form. Its voice soothed my fears, and love urged me on. I hurried past Sarber and Babel on the left, and came to Maishan, the haven of merchants, perched next to the sea. My robe of glory, which I had taken off, and the toga over it, were sent by my parents, and the heights of Hyperenia, there in the hand of the treasurers to whom they were committed, because of their faith, and I had forgotten the robe's splendor. For as a child I had left it in my father's house. As I gazed on it suddenly, the garment seemed to be a mirror of myself. I saw it in my whole self, and in it I saw myself apart, for we are two entities, yet one form. The treasurers brought me one robe. There were two of the same shape, with only one kingly seal. They gave me my wealth, the bright embroidered robe, with golds and beryls, with rubies and opals and seraphins of many colors were fastened onto it, its high home. All its seams were fastened with stones of adamant, and the image of the kings of kings was embroidered on it, and it glowed with sapphires of many colors. I saw it quiver all over with the movement of gnosis, and as it prepared to speak, it moved toward me, murmuring the sound of its song as I descended. I am the one who acted for him, for whom I was brought up from my father's house. I saw myself growing in stature according to his labors, with regal movements, with spreading toward me, urging me to take it, and love urged me to receive it. I stretched forth and received it, and I put on the beauty of its colors. I cast my toga of brilliant colors all around me. Therein I clothed myself and ascended to the gate of salutation and adoration. I bowed my head and adored the majesty of my Father who had sent to me. I had fulfilled his commandment, and he had fulfilled what he promised at the gates of the princes. I mingled with his nobles, he rejoiced in me, and I received me. And I was with him in his kingdom, and all his servants praised him with resounding voice. He promised me that I would journey quickly with him to the gate of the King of Kings, and with my gifts and my pearl, I would appear with him before our King. So as we look at this, as the gifts and the pearl, I'd like you to just take a moment to think about your gifts. Your gifts that were placed in your heart from the very beginning of time. That gift that was a splendid gift that is unique, that is a unique divine expression of you. Just take a few moments to think about the gift that you bring here on this journey of your soul's evolution. These gifts are to bring joy. I'd like you to think about these gifts. When you're ready, go ahead and come back to the space if you haven't opened up your eyes already. I'd like you to keep in mind your gifts. We're going to do a little writing exercise in a few. Maybe we can pass those out, the paper out, just so that you can remember, just in case. I know that you remember everything that you need to remember. But we'll pass these out. We're going to do a little visioning. I wanted to go through a couple of exercises. Since we are in the season of joy, the joyful season, the gift of the Christ consciousness, our inner joy. And as you think about these, the gifts that you have, and they could be 1, 2, 3. There's no limit to it. Right now, go ahead and pick 3 of them. And I'd like to ask you the question: the gifts that came to your mind, are they gifts that you're using, that you're utilizing? Or are they gifts that are on the back burner? You know, I don't know. I have every now and then I have a project. I've been working on a collection of work called Criaturas Arboreas, portraits of a tree. And I find it every now and then, and it brings me great joy. I can pick up my photographs, I can pick them up, and I can dance with them. And every now and then I find that as much joy that it brings me, I find that every now and then they get put on the back burner. So, is the joy, your gifts, those gifts that you have, are they gifts that you're using to make your life joyful? And you don't have to answer that right now. That's just a question that I have. And we're going to do the form that you have is visioning, and it's just kind of to help move, whether you're using your joyful gifts now or you would like to use them. It's something that to look at. So there's a couple things I want to look at. One is our consciousness, and how do we elevate our consciousness? So there's two parts to this. One is our consciousness and our joy, and it's the gift of the Christ consciousness, and can we ignite our inner joy? Let's ignite our inner joy. So a couple of thoughts that I have here. In the book of James, everything that we need is within us. According to his divine power, has given to us all things that pertain to life and godliness, through the knowledge of him that has called us to his glory and virtue. So when I read that, it's everything that, in religious science, it's everything that we need is within us. So all the tools that we need are within us, and are we tapping into it to live this life of joy, is in the hem of the pearl, to live this splendid life that we're just joyful and happy? Are we tapping into that? So how do we tap into that? One of the ways is recognizing our connection with nature, shifting our consciousness. When I come here, there's again, I photograph portraits of trees, so I notice the trees here. I see their faces. I see the portraits of the trees that are here. And I ask you, when you pass by a tree, we have a symbiotic relationship with nature, and specifically with the trees. Do you give thanks for the oxygen that the tree gives us? That is one way to tap into the consciousness of how we're all divinely connected, all of nature, that we live and move and have our being in the universal body of God, and every aspect of it is God. And so thinking about the trees and our nature, any part of nature, I choose the trees to focus on. There's this beautiful tree right out that window that I can see from here that just like love right there. So as you walk around in nature, even from this building to your car, you're in nature. There's beautiful trees that you pass. There's the grass. There's in the springtime, there's the beautiful little pansies that are outside on our lawn right there. So just be cognizant of nature all around you, even if it's a small little piece. When I was living in the Bay Area, there was one section of Oakland that they had cut down all the trees. All the trees in this neighborhood were cut down. And it felt so sterile. It was like being in a hospital, and now that I think about the symbiotic relationship with the trees, what's happening? What's happening? So just being cognizant of nature, of taking a moment to recognize it, to look at it. And then another way to help raise our consciousness is to being in thanksgiving, being thankful for life itself, for the very breath that you're breathing, for the experiences that you're having. In all things give thanks. I think it was in the book of John, in all things give thanks. And it's in these areas of our life that we say, what is there to be thankful about? Well, if we look deeper, that those areas, I know for myself, I find myself in situations every now and then, and I look at it as that is that part of my life. It was a seed that I planted. It was something that I brought to myself in consciousness by my thinking. So it's something that I need to shift if it's not something that I want to manifest. And if it's something that I'm wanting to manifest, but it's not coming as quickly as I want it, I know that the seed is there. The seed of my manifestation, that thing that I want to experience, is there. And so it is in that place of knowing, if I'm in a difficult situation, that it's that place where that seed, if you think about a seed haul, and it has to break open so the plant can come through. I think about this, and there must be some pain. If seeds can feel pain, that there must be that little ripping of the seed to come forth. The baby chick coming out of the egg. That you cannot help the baby chick come out of the egg, or its neck won't be strong enough. It has to peck its way out. So there's a little bit of work that needs to be done. So even in that, knowing that my good is before me, that thing that I want to experience is before me, and it's just that moment of coming through the soil, breaking through the seed, and coming through the soil, and in giving thanks of where I am, and knowing that the more I give thanks, and I look for the good in my life, that plant will come through quicker. So, giving thanks. Giving thanks. The other one, I found this list, and it had 100 things, and I just chose a few. And it said to tell the truth. And I thought about this. And who's the most important person that you need to tell the truth to? Yeah. To thy own self be true, for thou cannot be untrue to any other man. Something, I don't have that exact. Maybe somebody has the exact quote. But it's William Shakespeare, but to thy own self be true. And telling ourselves the truth. And that's our divine self talking to us. And so even going one step further, that telling ourselves the truth would be acting on that. We can tell ourselves the truth, but if we don't act on that, that doesn't move us to that place of consciousness that we're looking to attain a higher level of consciousness. So whatever it may be, and I was thinking about that, it's even with the foods that I eat. Am I eating this and am I telling myself the truth about this food, but I'm eating it anyway? The food that I put into my body is what regenerates my cells. The cells of my body regenerate through the water I drink, the food I eat, the thoughts I think, the exercise I get. And so those are, once it moves past the mouth, it has to do something in the body. So telling the truth in all areas of our lives to ourselves, first and foremost. Practicing forgiveness. When we're in a state of unforgiving, who suffers? We do, yeah. The other person that we're not forgiving is out having a joyful time. They probably forgot. And so we have bound ourselves by unforgiveness. So to be free, to be joyful, to be able to express the divine love is to forgive ourselves, first of all. And in forgiving ourselves, it's easier to forgive others. I find myself when I'm judging someone else, it's like, wow, I'm in judgment of myself. And if I'm holding on to unforgiveness with someone else, it's like, how am I holding on to unforgiveness from forgiving myself for the shoulda, woulda, couldas? Those shoulda, woulda, couldas serve nobody. And if those come up, just know that you have always been in your right and perfect place. That there are no mistakes in spirit. That there is this place within us. The spirit that dwelleth within has never been hurt, has never been damaged, has never been abused. The Spirit, the Holy Spirit that dwells in the body temple is the Spirit of God. And that's our divine connection. The physical body may have had these experiences and we just forgive. And there's that phrase that I absolutely love, that there is nothing to be healed but the truth to be revealed. The truth to be revealed. And in that piece that Chris read earlier of Myrtle Fillmore, the truth to be revealed, the truth of her divine connection to God. Revealing the truth of who she is. And she still is. Her spirit always is. Connection through prayer. Our every thought is a prayer. That thing that we dwell on is our prayer. We're in constant prayer. I was listening to a talk on Emma Curtis Hopkins by a Unity minister, John Rankin, and he had said to have that prayer that you want always going in your silent unity of your mind. I thought that was great, the silent unity. And the interesting piece that I learned listening to this CD, it's a 6-part CD, and every time you hear a CD over and over again, you learn something new. And what he said there, and it came from Emma Curtis Hopkins, that prayer that's in our silent unity, that our experiences come to meet it. So what is it that we're thinking? What is it that we're thinking? Are we thinking the thoughts that we want to create in our lives? That the universe will bring that forward, that thought, and it'll just meet. It's the union, the divine union. Meditation. How many have regular meditation practice? Yeah? If you're not doing meditation now, I know for myself, when I started meditating, I was a digital clock watcher, And now I'll look at the clock to see what time I'm starting and, oh, how long I've been in meditation. But I was literally a clock watcher. I would sit down on my pillows in my bedroom, and I had and it was, sometimes it wouldn't even move a minute before I opened my eyes. It was like, is my 1 minute yet? And if you're not meditating, take the time to practice meditation. Even if you start with 1 minute, just be in the silence for 1 minute and add a minute at a time. Add a minute till you're at your 30 minutes, at your 40 minutes. I find for myself at 20 minutes, I get to that sweet spot. When you hit the 20 minutes, there's that sweet spot. It's the sweet spot. How many have had the experience the sweet spot? Yeah. Isn't that wonderful? It's a wonderful place, yeah. And then here they said the list was find and live your purpose. But I'd like to focus on find and live your joy. If we're living our joy, if you've ever read articles about people that are successful and are having these wonderful experiences in life, they've tapped into their joy. And so with this paper that was passed out to you, I'm going to do a little meditation. And before we go to the meditation, I brought some joyful, so joy, the meaning of joy, the emotion evoked by well-being, success, or good fortune, or by the prospect of possessing what one desires. So I love the book, the little booklet, Your Heart's Desire. How many know that little booklet by Emmett Fox? Your Heart's Desire? Oh, that's one of my favorites. I ran over. Sorry. So let's do a quick fire. Is everybody okay with a quick 10-minute little meditation? Is that okay? Or do we? No? Okay, so why don't we do this? Why don't we hang on to these, and next time I come, we'll do this. But you've tapped into your inner joy of what your joy is. So just in taking a moment and being with that, so I totally lost track of the time there, sorry. Just taking what you have with your joy to be with these in meditation on your own. Perfect to start your New Year's practice with meditation on your joy and how you can bring the joy that is in your heart into the world. Into the world. Okay, so that's
It's a challenge
it's a challenge.
to take it. We can work on this.
We can work on it. So you know what? I'm willing to, if you wanted to do this, and this could be great to have to come back during the week or sometime in January to do this.
You know, we're going to do the burning goal on January 30th.
Okay.
And, December 30th. And so this would be really cool to think about our gift as well as what we're going to release.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be perfect. Okay, so I'm not going to share anything else that I have with you, but I am just going to close out with this wonderful, just knowing that the shift in consciousness, that everything that we need to know, we know. That right here and right now, the inner joy is ignited. It has been evoked. It has been asked for. And releasing it into the universe, into the knowing that the world is waiting. The world is waiting for your joy. That the world is waiting to be enhanced by the joy that you bring, the gift that you bring to the world. And I trust and I affirm that right here and right now, that any obstacle, real or imagined, to this inner joy is just removed with ease, grace, and compassion effortlessly to allow the expression of the living one to express itself joyfully as each and every one of us. And with this, I give thanks. I give thanks knowing that there are no mistakes, even in a going off on a da-da-da-da. So giving thanks, I just release, I let go, and so it is. Amen.